First off, I want to thank everybody for coming. I'm very excited that you're here, and you guys should be excited as well. How many of you, is this your first workshop? Let's give them a hand. Thanks for coming out. How many have been here for several workshops? Okay, well, good for you guys. You guys, round of applause for you guys too. Yeah. It's very important that you come to these workshops. This is like the extra credit stuff. The stuff that you learn in these workshops is going to be stuff that's going to help you empower yourselves. And it's going to really give you the opportunity to take really control of your health. And you've already done a big step just by coming under chiropractic care. Chiropractic, it's just basically getting adjusted on a regular basis, allows your body to function at 100%. It also helps you heal at 100%. And what's great about that is you don't have to worry, you don't have to rely on drugs. You don't rely on insurance companies to make health decisions for you. You're taking that active role and you're empowering yourselves. Okay, so it's awesome that you guys are here. Most of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Damien. I'm one of the new doctors here. I also want to point out Dr. Chris. He's another of the new doctors here. We basically just got going this week. We're really excited to come into this office. As most of you know, this is a great healing and loving and just a warm environment, and that's really what drew me here. The staff is awesome. Tina and Diana. I didn't see Tina's back there. She's hiding behind the sound music over there. Anyway, before I get started, I guess let you know a little bit about myself. This is my second career. I used to be a restaurant manager, and I started going to get adjusted at the chiropractic school I landed up going to. I started going there. I got amazing results myself. Just having been playing sports and powerlifting and all this stuff all my life, I just had a lot of lower back issues. Some days I couldn't even put my socks and shoes on. And then being a restaurant manager, I was on my feet all day long, And so I started going to the school, getting adjusted, and thankfully the student chiropractor that was there and the other doctors on staff really educated me on what chiropractic was and just keyed me in on the amazing abilities of the body to heal itself. And it really resonated within me, and it made me want to become a chiropractor myself. So that's really how I got into chiropractic. What else can I say about that? This is my hometown. I was out in Atlanta for 8 years. After I got done with school, I couldn't wait to come back and just basically serve the community in which I grew up in. I grew up in Albuquerque, actually, not Rio Rancho, but it's still the same area to me. Still New Mexico, still home. Coming into this office, I also saw Dr. Brad as being a great mentor to me. I know I can learn a lot from him, which is why I just decided to come to the office. Most of you already obviously are getting adjusted by him, so he's just got really gifted hands, and I just see the amazing things that he does in this office, and it just blows my mind, and I just want to be a part of that. So I guess without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Brad.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. I'm sorry, Dr. Damien. I knew that. Well, I am very excited to be here tonight. And, really, before I even get started, I have an experiment that I want to do tonight. And I need a volunteer. Do I have any volunteers? Damien, you're the first one. Dusty, you were a little slow. I'm sorry. Damien, can you come on up here for a minute? I love you, Dusty. But, Damien actually, he's a pretty strong guy, so he'll actually work really well for this. Damien, what I'd like you to do is actually, if you could just, let's actually stand up here, right about there. That's good. What I want you to do is just, can you stand on one leg? Look at him. Let's give him a hand for that. Okay, stay up on one leg. Now, you're pretty strong, and so I'm just going to kind of...
Caught me off guard.
Okay, let's do it again. Now I'm going to push you. Okay. You try to stay upright. Now, is he weak or what? Let's try one more time. See if you can do better this time. I'm going to really push you. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So he's standing on one leg. He's not as strong as... Okay, go ahead and stand on two legs. Now I'm going to push you again. Flex. Here we go. And he's a lot more stable. In fact, would you agree that if I was a lot stronger than I am and he was not quite as strong as he is, if he trained specifically, he could even get stronger, and if he's standing on two legs, he could probably I wouldn't be able to push him over. If he trained specifically to be able to stand upright. Thank you, Damien. Give him a hand for volunteering. So, how important is balance? It's pretty darn important. If you are standing on one leg, you have less strength than if you are standing on two legs. So let's just say that we are living in this society where we are called the one-leg hopper society, where none of us, we have these two legs, but for whatever reason, we all just hop around on one leg. Wherever we need to go somewhere, we just hop around on one leg. And then we've lived like that for thousands and thousands of years. We are the one-leg hoppers. Okay? So, you have these one-leg hoppers, and that's the norm in our society. And then all of a sudden, this one guy comes up, and he says, look guys, this one-leg hopping thing, that's for the birds. You know, you can be so much more stable, and you can actually go so much faster, you can go further, if you just put the other leg down and you start walking and maybe even running. And what do all the one-leg hoppers say? You're an idiot. What are you thinking? We've done this for years. This is just what we do. We are the one-leg hoppers. That's our name. That's what we do. So, what I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to have an open mind to something new. Because some of the wisdom and the knowledge that you have held for so many years, well, you might learn something new tonight. And you might be able to realize that it might be better for me to put both legs on the ground. Because you might be able to go further. You might be able to go faster. Because when we're talking about balance in relation to our body, really there's one word that we need to understand regarding balance. And that's homeostasis. Who's heard of that word before? Okay, so most of you. Homeostasis is where all the cells they have balance inside those cells, and all of the parts of those cells are doing their job very efficiently and effectively together. And there's not an external environment that's actually throwing that balance off of that homeostasis, but it's allowing that cell to do its job. Now, that's homeostasis within the cell. But then, wouldn't you agree that you have this cell, and then this cell, and then this cell, and all the other 75 trillion of your cells, right? And as long as they are all balanced together, then we're going to be better off, right? Does that make sense? Just like some beautiful dancers. So, let me ask you a question. If a cell is cancerous, is that in balance? No. It's not in balance. It's lost its homeostasis, right? It's out of homeostasis. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about cancer here in a few minutes. See, now remember, be open-minded. Be open-minded, because medical doctors will never help you achieve balance. They do something very different. I'm not saying that medical doctors are bad, because in fact medical doctors are very good, very needed in our society. But how they are used in our society has been a little bit overused and maybe even abused. So I want to share, when I was about 8 years old, something that was literally burned into my mind was when I saw a house fire. Now, being this little boy and knowing how important it was to have a home, and I loved my house, and I loved to be able to go to bed every night, and I loved my toys and the things that all my stuff. There was a house on this country road. I grew up on a farm in this country area, and so there was this house that caught fire. And of course, everybody could see the big smoke billowing up there. And so everybody in town went to this house that was burning down. And of course, everybody got there, and then the fire department came. And of course, it was a small town, so we had 2 or 3 little small fire trucks. And it took them a while before they got there. And then it was kind of too late. The house, they pretty much just watched it burn. And so we had the whole town watching this fire, this house burn down. And I remember that as I was sitting there watching the fire, about how these people were now going to be without a house. And it just I kept on thinking about how sad that was that these people would no longer have a house. But what I didn't know then, what I understand now, is that somebody could come back and rebuild that house, right? Now, it's not going to be the exact same house. It's going to be different, but they can rebuild that house. So, who do you think they're going to call to rebuild that house? The fire department, right? Wait a minute. So here we have this house. It's been burning down, and the fire department got there, and they're spraying it with their hoses, and they're trying to keep the fire from going out. It's a crisis, right? So the fire department is there. So the fire's gone. The smoke clears. Aren't they going to call the fire department to come back and rebuild that house? Are you sure? So who are they going to call? The chiropractors? I hope not. The contractors, maybe the carpenters. So the firemen are the right people for that job when they are in crisis, the house is burning. But it's absurd to think that we would call the firemen to come back and rebuild the house. We're going to call the carpenters. They're the ones who are doing the rebuilding. Now, here's what's interesting. You can get the carpenters then, they come in, they rebuild the house, and it's a beautiful home again. You have these, like the one-leg hoppers, the people who are kind of set in their ways. There's this group of firemen that get together, and they decide that they're sick of all the house fires. They're sick of the houses that are burning down, and they decide that there are some things that they could do on a regular basis that would keep the houses from burning down. In fact, they guarantee that the houses are not going to burn. In fact, they go around and they talk to all the insurance companies and they tell them, I promise you that if you allow us to do this and you pay us a good sum to do this, we promise no houses are going to burn down. So the insurance company says, whoa, that's a great idea. We don't like those house fires either because they cost us a lot of money. So go do your thing. So the firemen get out there and they go up and down the street and they start spraying the houses. And in fact, if you're one of the lucky ones who has the really good insurance, they'll even go inside your house and they'll spray your house down inside. Now, it works perfectly because it's guaranteed your house is not going to burn down. In fact, they'll go there every day just to make sure that everything stays moist. And it's guaranteed it's not going to burn, right? It's guaranteed. It won't burn down. Well, that's kind of silly, isn't it? What if they have these randomized, double-blind control studies that show that if they go in there and spray down these houses, they are not going to burn down? Well, that's the right thing to do, isn't it? The studies show that. Well, here's the problem. In fact, before we understand the problem, this group of firemen is so big and it's so powerful that they've convinced everybody that spraying your house is the only way to do it. And it just doesn't make sense to some people. And these people that it doesn't make sense to, guess what they call them? Quacks. They call them quacks. You're idiots. These studies show if we just spray the houses, everything's going to be just fine and guaranteed your house won't burn. So, what do you have to say about that? Are they on the right track? No, of course not. Of course not. See, here's the problem. They were asking the wrong question. See, the question was, the houses are burning down, and how do we keep them from burning down? So, logically, they think, oh, water, things don't burn, go spray them down, and guaranteed their houses aren't going to burn down. They're asking that question, but perhaps that's the wrong question. So maybe it's better to ask a different question. For example, anyone heard that high cholesterol, is that a good thing? No, high cholesterol. So there are double-blind, randomized, controlled studies that show that you should not have high cholesterol. You know what those studies actually show? The studies that count anyway? They actually show that there's only one thing that cholesterol-lowering drugs are effective in. You want to know what that is? Say again, Dustin?
It's raising something else.
Well, it is. It's damaging the whole balance of the body. But what they've been proven to show, that cholesterol-lowering drugs guaranteed will have you have lower cholesterol and die sooner. Isn't that cool? Woohoo! My cholesterol's lower, but you're going to croak sooner. It's guaranteed. So the studies may show that. In fact, you may remember Pfizer, a couple of years ago, had a lawsuit against them because they were claiming that their drug was going to minimize the risk of heart disease. And they got sued because of that, because there's never been a study that has shown that it affects and it even reduces your risk of heart disease. It's proven, lowers cholesterol in some people, doesn't lower the risk of heart disease. So we really need to be prepared to maybe sometimes ask different questions. If we really don't want our house to burn down, wouldn't it make more sense to make sure that our electricity is all up to code, right? And that maybe we don't have our kids play with matches inside our car, in our house, and we just do simple common sense things like that, and we reduce the risk of having our house burn down. Well, that's really what we've got to do, is we've got to do things that are going to reduce the risk. It's common sense stuff. So, my question is, does medicine create balance? Ever? Then how can it be good? If medicine never creates balance, how can it be good? I'll tell you what it's great for. It's great to get rid of symptoms in many cases, and it can help you feel better in many cases. But it does that at the expense of your overall health 100% of the time. Sometimes you notice that, sometimes you don't notice it for another 10 or 20 or 30 years. But it happens 100% of the time. So my question is, do drugs create more balance or less balance? Less balance, right? So the right question is, what can I do to change my lifestyle patterns so that I don't have the cholesterol that's high to begin with? That's the right question. Not how to bring my cholesterol down, but what do I need to do, taking self-responsibility to allow for a better degree of health and balance within my own ecosystem to create that homeostasis. So how can we create a state of health? How can we do that for ourselves? Will that do it? But they taste so good, don't they? I mean, come on. I mean, you know, that little donut establishment that's down the hill, the one that just opened up recently? You know, there were a lot of people I know, a few of them that live in my own house, were really excited for that place to open back up. And in fact, one of them decided that it would be a great idea to go there at 5:30 in the morning and wait for it to open up and get the first donuts that came off out of the fat. And they thought, wow, that would be really cool. See, eating a donut, it doesn't create balance for us, does it? See, when we understand that what we do to ourselves, it either creates balance or it takes us away from balance, that gives us the information that we can start making different choices. Here's the thing. The moment you eat a donut, there are signals that are sent in your body. I mean, it takes that fast, that long, to create some changes that already will start to make your cells, some of them, to go out of balance. And then once they go out of balance, does that affect some of the other cells in the body? And then you have this cascade of effects that are taking place, and all those cells start to go into chaos. That's not good, right? Here's what happens. You have something inside of you that can prevent you from dying when you eat that donut. That's a good thing. It's a very positive thing. See, you can create balance by allowing this one principle to live in your life. What is the one principle, for those of you who have been around for a little while, the one principle that would allow you to not die when you eat that donut? Who can help me out? Innate intelligence. You are so smart, Dusty. You're awesome. So, the innate intelligence is what happens when you insult yourself, trying to kill yourself by eating a donut, and then that innate intelligence comes in and says, all right, I got to do it again. You're trying to kill yourself, commit suicide, so here I'm going to come in and I'm going to try to create some balance in this chaos that you're creating for yourself. And you know what? Fortunately for us, that innate intelligence is not stupid. It's very, very smart. And it knows exactly what to do, and that innate intelligence comes in and it regulates and helps you adapt to the garbage that you're putting into your own body. It will either create a state of health or it will create a state of sickness. Does that make sense? So, wait a minute. Why would innate intelligence create a state of sickness? I thought sickness isn't good, right? It makes sense. Innate intelligence wants us to be healthy because innate intelligence wants us to be alive. And it's going to work really hard at creating health for us so that we can survive, right? So why would something so smart, like innate intelligence, create sickness for us? Because wouldn't you agree? Raise your hand if you've ever been sick. Okay, so every one of us, we've all been sick before. Why would something so smart, like innate intelligence, create sickness?
To tell you there's something wrong.
Maybe it's a signal. Maybe something is wrong. Well, our theme of the month for February, because everybody knows it's Valentine's month, right? It's Valentine's month. That's what February is known for. And of course, with Valentine's, we have a healthy heart. Our theme this month is having a healthy heart. And our workshop that we're having next week, that some of you I know are signed up to come to, it's going to be an awesome workshop. We're going to be, it's called Subluxation is Breaking Your Heart. How cool is that? So we'll talk more about that next week. But I asked earlier if cholesterol was a bad thing. And you agreed yes, right? Let's use the example of high blood pressure. Is high blood pressure a bad thing?
Yes.
Yeah, you bet. Or is it? I'm sorry, I'm asking a few trick questions tonight. Because high blood pressure actually may not be a bad thing. That's weird. How could high blood pressure be a good thing? It might be compensating for what your body needs, right, Dusty? Now, having high blood pressure, that's a bad thing. I'm not tricking you there. Having high blood pressure is a bad thing. But high blood pressure in itself is not a bad thing. It is a perfect, 100% beautiful response of innate intelligence. Saying, something is wrong here, you've insulted yourself long enough, and a way that I have to adapt is to constrict the blood vessels to save your life so that you don't die today. Now, it may be bad for your long-term health, but you're not going to die today. That's the job of innate intelligence, is to do everything it can to keep you alive. See, that's a perfect response of innate intelligence. So, really, we talked about homeostasis and balance earlier. Who can tell me what health is? It's not a trick question, I'm sorry. Everybody's like, uh-oh, should I say anything? What is health?
The ultimate.
The ultimate, yeah. We feel good. We probably feel good if we have health. Sometimes we actually may not feel good, but let's not go there tonight. What is, if you were to define health, not the chiropractors in the room, if you were to define health, what would you call it? How would you define it?
All things in balance, sure.
Oh, maybe all things in balance. I like that one, Will. So if all things are working in balance, is it possible that if things are working in balance, you may not feel good? That's interesting. What if all things are in balance? Really, the definition of health is all your cells are functioning at 100%, in balance. That is the definition of health. So what we have to do is, in order to create health, is try to make sure that all of our cells are working harmoniously together to create health, to create wellness, to create life. So if you don't have your health, what are you? Say again?
We're unhealthy.
You're unhealthy, and what would be another term that we use? Maybe sniffing our nose or something like that.
Sick.
You're sick. That's right. If you're not healthy, I'm really sorry. I've really put you on the. You're afraid to say anything. So if you're not healthy, you are sick. Or are you really sick? Are you really sick? Does sickness really even exist? See, I told you to begin with, I wanted you to have an open mind and I wanted you to start thinking differently. Hopefully I'm helping you just to realize that maybe you can ask different questions. Because really, does sickness even exist? Raise your hand if you have ever said, it's dark outside. Is it dark outside right now?
Pretty much.
Pretty much dark. What is darkness?
Absence of light.
Huh. Darkness is the absence of light.
And cold is the absence of heat.
Cold is the absence of heat. So, if darkness is the absence of light, does darkness exist?
Yes.
It's not an entity of its own.
Yeah, the scientist up here says it is not an entity of its own. Darkness has no physical properties, does it? Darkness does not exist. Darkness is the lack of light. So, what we have to do is simply turn on the light. Light has physical properties. Darkness has none. Isn't that just like sickness and health? Health is the state of optimal functioning. The cells are working perfectly together. That's balance. Sickness is the lack of that health. Just like darkness is the lack of light. And you see, when you understand that relationship, it really helps you think differently about the symptoms, or the, as Chris said, the body signals that are there, because then you can make different choices. See, there's only one way to treat the darkness, isn't there? How do we treat darkness? Yeah, flip the light switch on, right? Turn on the light. Excuse me. This is one of the reasons why drugs cannot make you healthy. Is that a revelation to anyone? Or does that make sense? Drugs can't make you healthy. Drugs can help symptoms go away, but they can't make you healthy. You see, what about genes? Don't genes? You know, some people are just predestined to have ill health, right? Because we have genes, we've inherited them. Haven't you heard about the genes? You know, they find studies they do studies all the time, and they find this specific gene that causes, for example, breast cancer, right? Well, do genes really make you sick? So, let's say, for example, that we build a house. Go back to those carpenters. They have these sets of blueprints, and they build two homes right next to each other in the exact same neighborhood, same climate, same everything, exact same blueprints. But you have the general contractors on this house, and they use the absolute finest materials that are available. They use, you know, all the good, you know, 2x4s and just everything that goes into building a good quality house. You know, good solid pipes, right, Johnny? Good solid everything. Great electricity, great wiring. You know, they build it up to code. But the other house, using the exact same blueprints, they decide that they want to use less than desirable quality materials. Less than quality materials. Which house would you prefer living in?
Better quality.
The better quality one, right? If you were to choose one of those two houses, which one of them is going to probably fall over sooner? The one with the poor quality materials, the poor quality building materials. So If you use poor quality building materials, can you have a high quality home? It's absolutely impossible. It's a law of nature. You simply can't have a high quality home if you have poor quality building materials. You see, your genes are fixed. You had as high a quality genes as you possibly could have gotten. You inherited them from your loving parents. So you know the best way to get good genes, you know what that is, right? Pick really good parents. But if it's too late to do that, you have the best blueprints that are available to you. The question is, what kind of materials are you going to build your house with? What are you going to put inside that actually will create that health for yourself? Who's responsible for the building blocks, the building materials going into your house? Yeah. In fact, is it really a house? Doesn't God tell us that it's really more like a temple? That's who we have. And if we treat it like a temple, my goodness, doesn't it kind of make you think, I really ought to treat this a little bit better? See, the expression of your genes don't make us sick, but the expression of those genes can create that lack of health. And that expression of the genes will happen because of the environment that you create for yourself based on your lifestyle choices. It's all about lifestyle. See, because sickness is merely a lack of proper balance, just like Will said earlier. Sickness is a lack of balance. So, what do the medical doctors do when you're sick? They treat your symptoms. How do they treat your symptoms? Medicine is the one. What's the other way that they treat your symptoms?
Surgery.
Cut it out. That's what they do. You know, I like to say also that maybe they give you very special, highly advanced tests to see what drugs they can give you or what body part they can remove. That's what they do. That's the only thing a medical doctor can do. Can they ever create balance? They can never create balance. See, you can create balance and health in your life when you adopt more healthy lifestyle choices. So what I encourage you is, if you don't know what healthy lifestyle choices to make, if you are struggling with something, well, the best thing to do is do as everyone here has done. Start asking different questions and really searching for those answers. I just have to brag on you for a minute, Margaret Ann, because Margaret Ann, you've been with us for 5-6 months. How many workshops have you been to?
I've only missed one.
She's only missed one workshop in the last several months. Let's give her a hand for that. Now, Jackie, you're not very far behind that. You've been here longer. And so, you know, my recommendation is that you come to at least 4 workshops a year. But then we talk about something different. I talk about 50 different topics all year long. And so you can get 4 of those, or you can get up to 50 of those. But I want you to know, I don't think I'm the authority, and I am certainly not God. I don't know everything there is to know. So what I do is I impart the wisdom and the knowledge that I have with these workshops, but I encourage you to read, to learn for yourself, to investigate, to search it out. Be the scientist like Bob. Be somebody who you really are wanting to figure out how you can be as healthy as possible, and be willing to put in the time and the effort to figure that out. For a starter, we have our lending library over here. We have lots of great books, but there are so many that are out there. I encourage you to read as much as you can. And that will help you to create the balance in your life. And the balance can come by living the lifestyle choices that will create health and wellness. So I guess my real question is how do you achieve health? What do you have to do to achieve health? Have balance and remove the interferences that are causing the lack of health or the lack of light. So you really need to ease the burden of innate intelligence. See, innate intelligence is going to work really hard, and you can make it easier and have the balance that we want, or we can make it really hard, and we just use donuts as one example, Are there more examples than that? Yeah, there are a lot of examples. There are a lot of things that we can do that are going to create ill health. So, how do you ease the burden of innate intelligence? Bob, would you mind coming up here for just a minute? So I wanted Bob is a scientist. How many years did you look under a microscope to give him an idea of how smart you really are?
Well, when I was at UCLA, I was an employee for part of the time, and I was a graduate student for part of the time, and most of my work was microscopic work. And like the people in biology, what's the typical attitude they have? It's this. They're looking down the tube, and I also worked in astronomy, in which you're looking up instead of down. I should have been doing more looking up, because I have that neck bent forward syndrome that the doctor told me about. He showed me in my X-ray. There are some hazards involved in that. But 9 years at UCLA, and most of the work was microscopic, with my head like that.
So I got a question for you. Spending that much time looking down into a microscope, now you've learned that in order to have good health, and in order to ease the burden of innate intelligence, the research shows, of course, we need to have a curve in our neck, right? And that's something that you learned when you came into our office that first day.
Exactly.
And you saw from your x-rays that you didn't have that curve.
Right.
It was kind of forward a bit, wasn't it?
Yes.
So, now being the scientist that Bob is, he did something really cool, and it was really a revelation for me. And I will forever thank him for this, because I'd never even thought of this before. But one day, Bob, you were taking your blood pressure. Will you kind of explain to them what you did and what you thought?
Well, I found that my blood pressure measurements were very close. Whether I was seated in the classical posture for taking blood pressure, feet on the floor, and sitting up erect, I found that I could do the same thing seated in bed, except that my bed is right up against the wall, and I thought, since the doctor explained to me that what he's adjusting is related to nerve endings or nerve fibers that are in this area of my body, the upper part of my body. So I sat in bed. I found that the measurements were not noticeably different from the other posture, but I experimented with pumping up the pressure on my cuff and then putting my head back till it touched the wall and keeping my head in that position to measure the blood pressure that way, because I figured that would change some of the conditions that my nerves are being subjected to in my neck, which, because I'm here, it means that I'm looking forward to enough adjustments over the years to put me in a permanent new condition of the position of my neck. And so I thought, well, what if I change that position intentionally? And so I did that. And I sat upright in bed with my legs out, my back against the headboard, but my head touching the wall. And I made the measurement that way. And in fact, I made a series of them. The more I did this, the more I wanted to be more scientific about my measurements.
He's a scientist.
So I would be taking readings looking straight ahead or looking down at the meter, and then I'd take a series of measurements with my head back against the wall in this position. And I found a pronounced difference. The difference was a matter of 20 to 30 points difference in blood pressure. I could take, say, a 180. This is with my medication. I could get a reading of 180 over, say, 80 with my normal attitude, looking straight ahead at the meter. And then the next one I would take, I put my head back and measure the blood pressure, everything in the same position except my head and neck. And I'd get a 150.
Isn't that
So
cool?
I found that this was consistent. It didn't matter whether I did it day or night, under any conditions at all, just that I changed my head position. All my vertebrae changed in their position and so on. And it didn't fail. Every time I did it, I would get 20 to 30 points lower on my blood pressure.
So
If the adjustments continue, and eventually that position of all the vertebrae are where they should be, I hope to walk out of here one day with something much closer to normal blood pressure.
give me a high five for that one. Don't leave me hanging, Bob. Give me a high five. So, go ahead and keep that for a second.
Okay.
What you realize is that that curve in your neck is absolutely vital to your life.
Absolutely.
And if you can get that curve to come back, that is going to ease the burden of innate intelligence. And by creating that curve in your neck, that's one of the steps that will be necessary to help your innate intelligence adapt properly to where that blood pressure, the high blood pressure is a good thing, but it's a positive response of your body that is having a negative effect on your health. So having the high blood pressure is the bad thing.
Exactly.
And so it's going to allow his body to simply adapt better. Isn't that cool?
Now, as a result of the medications I'm taking, I don't feel this high blood pressure. It doesn't seem to be a problem to me. And yet, what I'm aware of is a little unsteadiness when I get up out of a chair, or if I get up off the floor, especially. I'm trying to get my balance, because this is one of the side effects of these 3 medications I'm taking. It causes dizziness, and it's printed right on the can, on the little bottle.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
And,
They're so nice.
And 2 of the 3 have another side effect, which is a big nuisance: constipation.
Oh.
Every 3 or 4 days, I have to take milk of magnesia.
Yeah.
And that's been with me for years now. It works, and it's not, distasteful or, injurious. It's a hassle, and it costs me more money because I have to keep buying bottles of it.
And wouldn't you agree that if there's constipation going on, that means that there's,
It's not
for lack of a better word, crud, maybe,
Yeah.
that needs to get out. And some of that
wasn't
is actually being
designed that way.
Exactly. We were not designed to hold that in. We were designed to let it
And
flow.
I have to make sure it keeps moving.
Let it flow freely, in the right time and in the right amount. And
So one of the things I'm looking forward to, I'm not going to be able to tell when my blood pressure is lower, but I'm sure going to be able to tell when I can be normal in my bowel movements and not have this dizziness, because I have normally had very steady nerves, and I haven't been unsteady on my feet.
awesome. You know what? Let's give Bob a hand. Stay right here. Stay right here. So, my question is, who do you know that right now has heart problems? Who may have high cholesterol? Who may have high blood pressure? Or who do you know that may have some other kind of problem? Well, wouldn't it be a good idea to help them ease their burden that their innate intelligence is going through? And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is find it in your heart this Valentine's month and help them get checked for subluxation. You just might be the person that will change their life. Just like Bob would not have been here had it not been for his daughter. Because Bob, you weren't even experiencing any pain from what I recall. Your
No,
problem was
no.
just simply high blood pressure.
Nothing that showed up at all.
Yeah. And how old are you, Bob?
83.
83 years old. Isn't that cool?
You know,
And how long do you want to live?
well, I've been working on 100.
Isn't that cool?
But my gastroenterologist, about 2 months ago, looking over all the charts and x-rays and tests and everything, said, Bob, he says, I'd give you 12 to 15 more years. That'll take me up to 97. And maybe with a little willpower, I can go to 100.
Let's give him a hand.
But I do have a comment.
Okay.
I
You have the floor.
I have a cardiologist who's very good. He's a very sharp guy. He knows his stuff. But if he wondered what I'm doing, tinkering around with the vertebrae and the nerves in my neck, he'd probably think, what on earth is this man doing?
Yeah, because we're quacks, right?
Yeah. We're out of step.
Because they're all one-leg hoppers.
Yeah. Well, he knows perfectly what he was taught in medical school.
Yep.
And that was the state of the art and is at the present time. I don't think you're going to find cardiologists on the sly sending their patients to a chiropractor.
Probably not to treat their heart condition. You're absolutely right.
But I think if I told him what I'm working on, he'd think, well, do you want to do something like that?
But you know what? Wouldn't you agree? It's time for us to start speaking up. And it's time for us to start telling our medical doctors that as well.
Well,
Dusty?
my aim...
Go ahead, Dusty.
Go ahead, go ahead.
That is Dr. did. She asked, why are you seeing that chiropractor?
And what'd you tell him?
So her hips can be in line.
Yeah.
So you don't have to work on them.
Yeah.
At the moment, my present life's ambition is to get this blood pressure control down. You're going to be doing it.
No, you're going to be doing it. All I'm doing is giving you adjustments.
Getting me down to where, say, I can quit taking all my pills, and I can walk in his office sometime when I have an appointment and say, Doctor, I haven't taken these medications for 6 months. And he'd probably say, well, what are you doing? And I'll just have to tell him.
The proof is in the
There's
pudding.
another way to attack blood pressure besides medication.
Amen.
And he'll think, well, they didn't tell me about that in medical school.
No. Well, I want to say thank you for everyone for being here. I am so grateful and I'm so excited for Bob. And you know what? We need to keep Bob in our prayers collectively because I firmly believe that his body can heal. He believes that. All we have to do is ease that burden of innate intelligence. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, hopefully by now you understand if your health is in the balance. You know, we talked about a few different things. We talked about who do you call when you have health crisis. And the right people to call is a medical doctor. So if you are in crisis, work with your medical doctor to overcome that crisis. But if you're in long-term crisis, something is wrong. And you need to look at what is happening inside of your body. What are you doing to yourself to put yourself into that kind of crisis chronically, long-term? And so your homework today is really quite simple. Look for one thing. You've probably already thought about it. You probably already realize exactly what it is. Just one thing that you are doing on a somewhat regular basis that may be damaging to your internal balance, that you are, maybe it's something that you are eating regularly that you know you shouldn't be. Maybe you're not keeping your adjustment schedule like you should. Whatever that is, write that down in your journal and then track it for the next 3 weeks. And 3 weeks, look back and see how things have improved. 6 months from now, go back and revisit all these things that you're writing down and see how those little incremental improvements have been able to change your life. So, until next time, live your life to the fullest.